Welcome in to the Gridiron Fantasy Show. I'm your host, Paul Edgington. Going solo tonight on this one. Unfortunately, Derek is not able to join me, so it'll just be me this evening. Going to be doing a fast draft for the inaugural college football Best Bowl Mania tournament on Underdog Fantasy. First best ball draft for college football, which is a big step in the right direction for all of us college football fantasy players. So, going to go ahead and dive into one of these. It's the first fast draft that I've done. I am in a handful of slow drafts, so it'll be interesting to see how this differs. The ADP is starting to take shape and is changing each and every day since the tournament dropped. And I believe right now the tournament is just over 30% filled. And it looks like I will be drafting from the 11th spot. So I have not drafted here yet. I have been at 4 and I think 8. So first one right on the turn for me so far. So we'll get right into it. This one is set up like most underdog tournaments, regular season, quarter, semi, and a final week. So regular season is weeks 1 through 11, and then 12, 13, 14 are the playoff weeks. And for college football, you do have to watch out because every team gets 2 bye weeks. And unfortunately, there are 3 teams for the P4, along with Notre Dame, Oregon State, and Washington State, which is what this draft pool is made of, are those collection of schools. Florida State, Georgia Tech, and SMU have 3 bye weeks because they play in week 0. So do have to keep an eye on those bye weeks, as we have 17 teams that are on bye for week 12, the first week of the playoffs, and then a big one in week 13. Oregon is on bye for the semifinal week, which is extremely unfortunate. And the format here is Superflex. So Superflex with only starting 2 wide receivers. So let's see what we got here. I am up at 111 now. I think I'm going to go quarterback here. Take my boy Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. I haven't selected him as of yet. So we'll go with Jackson Dart. He has played extremely well since being at Ole Miss, transferring from USC. He's progressed each and every season. He's one of my favorites to rise up the draft boards and devy ranks this upcoming season. So more than happy to scoop him up here at 111 to anchor my quarterback room. And I think for this one, my strategy is going to be 2 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds, and then we will see how the running backs and wide receivers fall. But as of right now, it's looking like it's going to be a running back for my second pick at the moment. So hopefully Darius Taylor, true sophomore out of Minnesota, is still hanging around there at my pick. I would love to grab another share of him. Absolutely dominant freshman season when he was on the field. Unfortunately, dealt with some injuries and missed a lot of time. But when he did play, he put up massive fantasy football numbers for us. And he is there. So I will go ahead and consider him. But let's take a look at the quarterbacks. Avery Johnson, true sophomore starting at Kansas State. Very exciting dual threat player. But I think I will go ahead and go with Darius Taylor, get an anchor quarterback, an anchor running back to start out this draft for me right now. Very happy with that. So as I said, I think I'm going to try to go quarterback here in the next round, and then potentially another running back, depending on how the draft board falls here. I do have the Campus to Canton rankings uploaded onto my account. So going with the good fellows over there at Campus to Canton, if you're not subscribed to them, I highly suggest you do, pumping out all the college football content you can handle on a daily basis. And they also have a schedule matrix up there, which will help you out a lot with this draft as well, knowing which teams are on bye, especially when it comes to the week 12, first week of the playoffs. As I said, there's 17 teams we'll be dealing with missing that week. So let's take a peek at how the draft is going so far. Right now, nobody has went double quarterback as of yet. We do have one dual running back build with Amarian Hampton and Jaden Ott out of Cal. Can't be mad about that start. That's a pretty damn good start. I've seen Omarion Hampton go as high as number 5 in these drafts so far. And then, so looking at who is left at quarterback at the moment, Kyron Drones, Jackson Arnold would probably be my top 2 choices right now. Well, there goes Jackson Arnold. So scratch that. Of course, you listen to the show, you know my love for Shadur Sanders. Can't forget about him. But it would not surprise me if he is gone at my next pick as well in the 3rd round. As you can see, his ADP currently sits at 38 overall. Oh, and there goes Kyron Jones as well. So we are getting slim pickings at quarterback right now. Garrett Nussmeier, good old Ray GQ's dark horse for quarterback 1 in the 2025 class. And damn it, there goes Shadur at 302. Was not expecting that this early. So let's look a little bit further down the list. Of course, Lenore Sellers has been gaining a whole hell of a lot of hype. A big, massive man, Anthony Richardson type size, extremely athletic, fast, a true dual threat quarterback with a big arm. And he will be throwing to probably the most athletic man in college football, Nicholas Harbor, out there at wide receiver. So got to throw him into the hat on this one. And also Noah Fafita out of Arizona coming back again to play with my wide receiver 1, Teteroa McMillan, who is unfortunately dealing with an injury, it appears, as of right now. So he is, from the sounds of it, in danger to potentially miss the start of the season. But hopefully that will not be the case, especially if we are picking Mr. Noah Fafita this early in the draft. All right. So we had Arande Gatson, the number 1 tight end in college football. He did miss 98% of the season last year with an injury, but his sophomore year, he had a huge year, almost 1,000 yards, almost double-digit touchdowns at the tight end position. So if he is healthy, he is going to be a big advantage there. All right, let's got Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, and Noah Fafita still on the board. Wide receiver, not really. Well, my boy Trey Wilson, Eugene Wilson down there at Florida, really love him. He does get some help out there with Elijah Badger transferring in from, I believe it is Arizona State. So I think I'm going to go ahead with Trey Wilson and then basically take whichever quarterback is left here out of Nussmeier, Sellers, and Fafita. So hopefully I won't have to make the tough choice out of all 3, and at least one of them goes here at these next 2 picks. If I had to pick a preference, it would probably be Lenore Sellers. It is, of course, Underdog's 4-point passing touchdowns, so that rushing upside is huge in getting into the end zone for 6 points as opposed to the 4 for tossing it down there to the receivers. So go ahead and just move him up. Just always have a queue set of at least a handful of players when you're up, just in case something happens. You never know with these online drafts, something can always happen. Lose connection for a minute and you end up getting auto-picked. At least have some kind of queue set so that it is someone that you do want. And we'll go ahead and take Lenore Sellers there. So starting out with 2 SEC quarterbacks and an SEC wide receiver. I know he's not going to be there, but Damian Martinez transferring from Oregon State to Miami, Florida. Absolutely love him back there with Cam Ward at quarterback. I'm just going to load up my queue here a little bit with some running backs that I'm at least going to keep my eye on. Jaheim White, absolutely love him in West Virginia. Had a huge freshman season alongside CJ Donaldson. Damian Martinez off the board. Colston Loveland, second tight end. here at 4-4. I'm not going to be an early tight end guy whatsoever in this. It is college fantasy football. Tight end position is very volatile, so I want to take more dart throws later in the draft as opposed to spending the higher end capital on those guys. And where do you go? Marcus Carroll transferring in from Georgia State to Mizzou. He had one hell of a career at Georgia State, and then he does come in after Cody Schrader departs. So he should just step right into that role and see a whole lot of volume. Let's see what Mr. Carroll did. He was a beast for DFS. I had him in almost my weekly lineups. Last year, Georgia State, he had 1,350 rush yards and 13 touchdowns. So I definitely see him getting similar production, if not better, being at Mizzou and stepping into that true workhorse load and being a three-down back, as I believe he can be. Last year, he also had 23 receptions for 234 yards. So roughly, 2 catches a game. He can at least get something in the receiving game if the ball is thrown his way. So that's always a plus. And just going to start Nick Singleton. Had over 1,000 yards his freshman year, then very disappointing last season for Penn State. But he is very explosive. He can catch out of the backfield. He's also a returner for Penn State as well. So I know we don't get return yards, but if he houses one, of course, we do get the 6 points from that. And then Kyle Williams of Washington State in that high-flying offense, he is the number one wide receiver. And man, there went Isaiah Bond and Zachariah Branch, two of my favorite devy assets. And Isaiah Bond should put up some big, big numbers being there at Texas with Quinn Ewers this year. Man. So I think I'm going to snag Kyle Williams for my wide receiver 2. And again, we only have to start 2 wide receivers as opposed to the normal 3. So that is something just to always keep in the back of your mind here, that you're not really needing to pound the wide receiver position as you would for the NFL best ball drafts as much. And one wide receiver room that is very intriguing is the Colorado room. Obviously, Travis Hunter is the number one there, but then they have a whole host of other guys behind him. Joe Horn Jr. returns. LeJontay Wester coming in from, I believe, FAU. He could be the potential number 1, if not number 2, next to Travis Hunter. And then also Will Shepherd coming in from Vanderbilt, a bigger-bodied wide receiver, a different style than what they've had. So they do have plenty of different options there for Shedeur Sanders this year. And then, of course, Travis Hunter, he is on the board. He was taken. So I think I'm at this time going to stay away from that wide receiver room, and I'm going to go with Cameron Scatterbo. Very versatile player, a true dual threat out of the backfield for Arizona State. First year at the FBS level. He transferred up from, I believe it's Sacramento State. So a big step up in competition from him, but he did put up pretty good numbers last year. Really took him some of the season to get going, an adjustment to the Power 5 level of play. So last year, he ended the season with 783 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns, and then added 286 and another touchdown through the receiving game. He also did throw a touchdown as well. So for whatever that's worth, they did run quite a bit of halfback passes, double reverse passes, as he did have 15 pass attempts. So who knows? Any given week, he does have the slight potential to drop a touchdown pass in there for us. So right now we're all even out with the 2-2-2 build. Uh, I think the optimal build from what I'm seeing so far is probably going to be 4-6-7-3. So four quarterbacks, six running backs, seven receivers, three tight ends. Of course, at the running backs, you can flip, get six receivers since you do only have to start two of each, and we only do still have one flex spot. So I think that's just preference, which position you'd rather lean on yourself. Jordan Moore from Duke, a pretty good CFF play. See if he's still hanging around there. My next pick could potentially scoop him up, but he does have that dastardly Week 12 bye for the first week of the playoffs if we make it that far. Let's see who else we're looking at down here. It's Cardinal Tate at Ohio State. Assuming he is coming into the season as the number 2 next to Emeka Egbuka, he should still be ahead of Jeremiah Smith on the depth chart to at least start the season. As of right now, I think everybody's counting on him to be the second man in the pecking order on that very, very high-powered Ohio State offense. I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on a third quarterback as of yet, but Fafita's still sitting there. I love Aiden Childs from a devy point of view, going to Michigan State with his old ball coach, Jonathan Smith, from Oregon State. Daquan Fenn was an absolute college fantasy star at Toledo, transferring down to Baylor now. Hopefully going to see repeat performances of what we've seen from his career to this point. So he would be someone I would – oh, there goes Noah Fafita. Okay. And Marcus Carroll is still sitting there. So I think I'm going to scoop him up here. Then the Texas wide receiver room, looking at Jonte Cook here. I believe he was a 5-star on some recruiting services coming into Texas. That wide receiver room is absolutely loaded with talent and lots of fast talent. Mentioned Isaiah Bond earlier. Matthew Golding coming in from Houston. Jonte Cook, of course. DeAndre Moore, another freshman from last year, very talented. Ryan Niblett. And then another 5-star, Ryan Wingo, coming in as well. So it's going to be pretty hard for Jonte Cook to see early targets and any kind of consistency early in the season. So I'm probably avoiding him at cost right now here in the 8th round, early 8th. I think I'll go ahead and just hold off on him. Then, of course, Jordan Moore goes right before me. So quarterback, I don't see a huge value here. I'm going to go ahead and hold off on that position still. And then Antoine Wells Jr., Juice Wells, transferring from South Carolina to Ole Miss. Stack him with Jackson Dart, playing next to Trey Harris, who has been getting some first-round buzz. Wouldn't be the worst. So I think I'll go ahead and go that direction here. Oh, guess not. Why you always have a queue set. Unfortunately, didn't get it in time, but I did get Caden Fagan, running back at Illinois. So he's been talked up a lot by head coach Brett Bielema. Says he's one of the fastest big players he's ever been around. He's a large man, 6'3", 250 at the running back position. True sophomore coming into this year. Last year, he had 438 rush yards, 116 receiving, and 3 total touchdowns. So he is thought to be the number 1 running back for the Fighting Illini this season in the Big Ten once again. I'm not mad about it, but I think I would have rather had Antoine Wells there as who I had my eye on. But hey, maybe we'll get lucky and he makes it back around to us here. I do want to snag Nick Harbor. He's perfect for best ball. He's going to have those big spike weeks, long touchdowns. Pair him with Lenore Sellers for a stack. So hopefully we'll be able to do that for a decent price. Barry Brown, absolutely love him in Kentucky. Versatile player, one of the fastest players in college football, one of the best return guys as well. So we got true freshman Cam Coleman, a 5-star at Auburn. He could potentially walk in there as the number 1 or number 2 in that offense. Really not a very good wide receiver room at Auburn. Keandre Lambert-Smith, former number 1 wide receiver for Penn State last year, transfers down to Auburn. Just going to go ahead and take a peek through these wide receivers we got sitting here. Chris Mitchell, I absolutely want to snag him up later. Transferred from Florida International to Notre Dame. I believe he's going to walk in as the number 1 in that wide receiver room right off the bat for Riley Leonard. Let's see what else we got cooking. Lawrence Arnold at Kansas. Jamori Macklin, I absolutely loved him at North Texas. Not as much going up to Kentucky since they do have Dane Key, another very talented true junior alongside Barry Brown. So he is probably looking at the number 3, if not number 4 wide receiver in that offense, unfortunately for him. Looks like we got a little wide receiver run going here, and Juice Wells snatched up right before me. Not surprising whatsoever. But I think here I'm going to lean on Cardinal Tate and hope for the best that he is going to be that number 2 in that offense. We will see a very, very talented offense with Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith. Julian Fleming did transfer to Penn State, so there's that for him. And, of course, cannot forget fellow 5-star from last season, Brandon Ennis, is still in that wide receiver room as well. And 4-star true freshman, Mylan Graham, could make some noise as well out of the state of Indiana, but he did play against a lower level of competition in high school, so that is a concern for most, that he is going to have to really progress and improve to play on the level at Ohio State that would be needed. Still, nothing at tight end is looking too juicy for me. I mean, Luke Haas down there at Arkansas. Mason Taylor, I absolutely love him going into the NFL. Tyler Warren would probably be my target for my tight end 1, hopefully in the next round 13, round 14. But I'm going to go ahead and reach down the board a little bit for Nick Harbor. I absolutely love him as an overall player and just love the week-to-week upside that he brings to the table in that offense with Lenore Sellers. And I'm sure a lot of you listening to this are into the college football 25 game that is coming out here in, worldwide release in about 40 minutes as I'm recording this. But early access started on Monday afternoon, which I did have. And I absolutely have spent way too much time playing that game. But Nicholas Harbor is the most OP player in the game. 6'5", 240, the fastest player in the damn game. He's pretty much unstoppable. I played a handful of games with them, and just it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. He is a human cheat code, as fast as Tyreek Hill, as big as Mike Evans, and he is the strongest wide receiver on the game as well. He did come into South Carolina as an athlete, A lot of us, including me, thought he was going to wind up on the defensive side of the ball as an edge rusher, but began as a tight end. Now he's transferred to wide receiver. So hoping for the best for him for all my devy shares. We see here Jeremiah Smith, true freshman at Ohio State, coming off the board at 10:08. Definitely early for my liking. I would have loved to have him later on, just because I think at some point he is going to get on the field at Ohio State. He is going to put up some decent numbers once he does hit the field. He's going to have huge touchdown upside, a big red zone threat. And Chip Kelly does like to have a main red zone threat in his offense. That will probably be Jeremiah Smith. So he's going to have week to week touchdown upside if he is on the field. So let's see. Corey Kiner out of Cincinnati, formerly of LSU. Absolutely love that pick this late in the draft if you're looking for a hammer running back. Let's see here. Now, Penny Boone out of Toledo, originally transferred to Louisville, or was committed to Louisville and then ends up down there in Orlando at UCF. Don't like that landing spot just because they do have RJ Harvey, who has eaten up the majority of the workload out of that backfield down at UCF, and I expect that to probably continue for the most part. I'm not really into Penny Boone at this point in time just because of RJ Harvey. I don't see the path to hitting your lineup week in and week out. There goes Jeremiah Love. Just thinking about him. And it looks like they still have not added Colorado transfer down to Kansas State. They have not added Dylan Edwards. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab my third quarterback here. I know there's a lot left on the board, but I really don't want to miss my chance on Daquan Finn. So I will go ahead and snatch him up. And it looks like Baylor does not have a Week 13 bye, so that's always a plus. As Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, they do have a Week 12 bye. So as of right now, my quarterbacks for the first week of the playoffs would be looking at Lenore Sellers and Daquan Finn. So I am all set there for the time being. Going to grab a fourth one at some point in time. Dylan Raiola should be the starting quarterback for Nebraska walking in day one. I wouldn't mind having him a bit later on as my QB4 high upside play with the talent that he does have. But with college football, you never know who's going to be starting and when. Like Graham Mertz is the starter now at Florida. It very potentially could be DJ Lagway at some point later in the season. So I really want to stay away from those kind of situations of someone possibly losing their job down the stretch of the season, then you're just getting zeros from them. So I think we're going to go ahead and go with another wide receiver here. Let's hurry the hell up. I'm going to go ahead and take Barian Brown. Nope, didn't get it in. Go figure. And then we get our final quarterback, Aiden Childs, off the auto pick because I took too much time messing around. But that's all right, I guess. They don't have a Week 12 bye either, or 13. Oregon is the only team on bye Week 13. So that's my quarterback room. Dart, Sellers, Daquan Finn, and Aiden Childs. So I am all set there. Go ahead and take my cord, roll out of my queue. I guess we might as well order this up just on the chance that it happens for a third time here. But hey, that's why we set a queue. And then Dallin Hayden, someone I absolutely love. He was at Ohio State for 2 years, I believe. He just couldn't get it, crack the lineup for what was in front of him. But when he did play extremely well. I think he had a 200-yard rush game, filling in for Travion last year, the year before. And he goes to Colorado, and that backfield is wide open. I mentioned him earlier. Dylan Edwards did transfer out, as did Alton McCaskill, who I had very high hopes for. So those essentially two of the top 3 or 4 running backs from Colorado are gone. So Dallin Hayden should be the running back 1, if not week 1, very early in the season. So he's someone I absolutely love. Maybe they will have a better run game this year. Having someone like Dallin Hayden, who is extremely talented, he was just unfortunately on the wrong team and wasn't able to get out ahead of the other extremely talented running backs in front of him. Love some Jalen Connors down there at Texas Tech. He was at Arizona State. Had a pretty big season last year for a tight end. Mitchell Evans, coming off an unfortunate torn ACL last year, should play a big role in that Notre Dame offense. But tight end, I'm just still not. G. Scott's an interesting one. I've been intrigued by him for years at Ohio State. Came in as a 4-star wide receiver, and I believe after his freshman year, converted to tight end, but it just hasn't worked out for him. Hasn't seen much playing time behind Cade Stover last year, who got drafted to the Texans. So he could see some time this year. Hopefully, that would be nice for his career. Holden Stays, transferred from Notre Dame to Tennessee. I love him in that offense with Nico Amalamaleiva, my devy quarterback 1 personally. I absolutely love Nico. See, Tyler Warren just went off in the last couple of picks. So here we are. Do we go tight end here? Do we just keep pushing it back? I think I'm going to keep pushing it back once again. But then I think we're going to go ahead and snag up Barry and Brown here. And then come back around with probably Dallin Hayden on the backside. See, Dorian Singer transferred from Arizona to USC, was thought to have a big year last year and was just a complete dud. Absolute dud from a prop standpoint. I believe he was set at like 900 yards, and I think he got about 400, if that, last year. So just did not work out for him at USC, and now he has landed at Utah, moving from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. Yeah. Maybe Terrence Ferguson is in the running for my tight end 1. I mean, he is at Oregon. He's had close to 400 yards the past 2 years, 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns. So, so I think we are going to go ahead and snag him. He's got the touchdown upside week to week in that high-powered Oregon offense with new quarterback Dylan Gabriel. I don't mind it. Probably would have rather waited another round, but saw 2 tight ends go right before me. Plus, in the 13th, we saw 2 other tight ends go. So there's been 5 tight ends out of the past round's worth of picks. I'll go ahead and snag at least one guy I'm comfortable with should get me at least something in the tight end position week to week. Not looking for the big weeks. For me, at least, I'm just looking for something. Just give me some kind of points, and I'll be all right. All right. Now, Dallin Hayden would be my next pick. Absolutely. So let's see if he makes it back around to us. So then there we go. We saw another tight end. Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame. Just talked about him. He went off the board. So it makes me feel a lot better about go ahead and reaching down and grabbing Terrence Ferguson when I did. Jamarion Miller or Jam Miller, running back from Bama. Could be the running back one, could be the running back two or three. They are absolutely loaded. Justice Hayes was a phenomenal freshman. Richard Young, another highly touted freshman coming in as well. So a very volatile running back room there in Alabama. There's no clear cut RB1 right there. But here in the 14th round, don't mind it whatsoever. Extremely high upside play there. So we're going to go ahead and scoop up Dallin Hayden and then Chris Mitchell if they're still there. Like I said, I think he'll be the wide receiver one in that Notre Dame offense, someone that could be dependent on that they did not have last year. Plus, Riley Leonard is a better quarterback than Sam Hartman. I think he's a much better fit for that offense. So I think that would be a very good pick in the 16th round. It would be. So hopefully he's there. So right now, what are we looking at? 4-4-5-1 build. Got CJ Donaldson, not another bad pick of running back. Former tight end, converted to running back. It's an absolute load at like 6'2", 250, 260. So he has, I think, each week last year he had a touchdown except for maybe two or three. So he does bring that touchdown upside week in and week out. Let's see what else we're looking at here. I think he was drafted, I believe. Yep, Chris Brazel, whichever is the correct pronunciation. Yep, drafted right there. Transferred in from Tulane to Tennessee. Could potentially be the number one in that offense, or 1A to 1B for Squirrel White as well. But I think he is going to be on the field, and he is going to be on the field a lot, producing in that high-powered offense. All right. Come on, T. Lopez. Do not. All right. Chris Mitchell, welcome to the team, buddy. So see what we can get for our last two tight end spots. Benjamin Urasek, potential NFL draftee, transferred from Stanford to Georgia. I don't think he's going to be a one-for-one replacement for Brock Bowers. I don't think he's that talented, of course. And then there's Oscar Delp. I absolutely love Oscar Delp. And of course, he was drafted. He is one of my favorite devy tight ends. My tight end two behind Colston Loveland at Michigan. So I don't see the path for fantasy relevance there for Urasek, so I'm going to go ahead and fade him. Going to be looking at Conyers and Arliss Boardingham out of Florida, an absolute athletic stud at the tight end position. He is someone I'd be happy with both of them or either one, but I want at least one of them. Make me feel a lot better about that tight end room going down the stretch. I haven't Noah Rogers transferred from Ohio State to NC State. Believe he was a 4-star recruit, so he should be lining up out there with one of my favorites, KC Concepcion, for that Wolfpack offense. He is also from Raleigh, so hometown guy coming back home. I, I think I'm only going to take one more wide receiver. It's going to be Cam Coleman or Noah Rogers, hopefully. So I can see Cam Coleman coming in there and having a big year. One of the better true freshmen we're going to see statistically is my high hopes for him. And then let's see what we got here for running backs. See what else is down here. Penny Boone, talked about him earlier. Wouldn't prefer him, but if he's about the last of who I'm looking at, not a terrible pick. He's going to be on the field. Just a matter of how much and what the work is looking like for him. But although, do I really see him transferring down to UCF if he's not going to be playing a decent amount? Probably not. But of course, we never know. Absolutely never know with these situations. Rayshawn Luke out of Arizona is an interesting one. No more Jonah Coleman down there. Transferred to Washington, followed his head coach there. Let's see if there's any more gems down here that are piquing my interest. I don't think so at this point. And here we are coming up in 2 picks. So Cam Coleman, Noah Rogers. Somebody, one of those two is going to be the next pick. I think I'm going to go with Cam Coleman. I think he's the higher upside play here. Let's take a look at what Rayshawn Luke did last year. Again, Jonah Coleman was there dominating the backfield, so he only had 37 carries. But he should be the RB1 down there in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. On the smaller side, more of a scat back, quickness guy, 5'9", 175. Take Noah Rogers out and Jamal Banks because we're not looking for another wide receiver. Might just kick the can down the road and take a tight end here. I already do have Eugene Wilson, so I probably wouldn't prefer to double up with a tight end in that offense. It's not a very high volume passing offense with Graham Mertz back there for the time being, at least. So we'll go ahead and snag Conyers. Jake Johnson's an interesting one to me. I loved him. He was the number 1 tight end in his recruiting class. Went to Texas A&M. Didn't work out there. Followed his brother Max Johnson to North Carolina. But Bryson Nesbitt returned back to North Carolina, who was a big part of that offense for the last couple of years. So he's behind him, and I believe they have another talented tight end there as well. So he could be the tight end 3 on his own team. Hopefully that's not the case, but it would not surprise me one bit if it was. Randy Pittman out of UCF. Very good receiving tight end. Let's see what he did last year. So it's a true freshman, tight end. He had 215 yards and 1 touchdown. He's an undersized tight end, 6'2", 225. So he's not your traditional line him up and he's going to maul some defenders. He's going to get out there in the open field as a mismatch against linebackers and safeties as well. He also did not get into a game until Halloween. So he only played in 5 games, and they were the last 5 of the season. So he's got my interest. I think he might be a round 20 guy for us. He might be the final pick to send us off here. And CJ Donaldson will hopefully be our final running back piece. He said, love his touchdown upside week in and week out. But he is, number 2 in the running back room right now, and we all know how. Well, maybe not number 2. Let's see. But for ADPs, at least on the screen, and we know how some drafters get. If they're at the top of the board there, more likely to pick him than at the bottom. So come on, CJ Donaldson. Let's go ahead and fall to us so we can be a little bit more happier about this running back room. And now we see lots and lots of tight ends going here later. Kyle McCord's a very good pick. Syracuse has an extremely soft schedule. Potential to win the ACC and get into the college football playoff, if you can believe that. McCord will be throwing the Gadsden. He has LaQuint Allen, who's been a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher, I believe, back there in the backfield. So not a terrible situation for him. Also, Jaden, I believe it's Mayaviava. I can't pronounce it, don't know how to pronounce it. But transfer from UNLV. I know USC does have Miller Moss there, who put up 6 touchdowns in the bowl game. But I think Jaden here has a real shot to potentially be the quarterback 1 at some point this year. And of course, TBD Tyler Van Dyke, who's still hanging around college, transferred from Miami to Wisconsin. Looking to resurrect his career. I know his freshman year, we were all talking about QB1, number 1 overall pick, and then just fell off a cliff. Absolutely disappeared on us. But he is in a more high-flying offense than what we're used to from Wisconsin. Oh, there goes Dylan Raiola. Very good pick in the 19th. I don't mind that at all. And Alan Bowman at Oklahoma State. So we'll go ahead and get CJ Donaldson. And then looks like probably going to snag Randy Pittman. All right, come on, T. Lopez Anthony, go ahead and auto pick like you have all draft. As it tells, he only has 1 quarterback here in a super flex, and that is DJU. There's at least 1 donation in here. You love to see it. Tobias Merriweather. Don't mind that one out there, Cal. I believe he was a 5-star, at the very least a 4-star coming out of high school, went to Notre Dame and just didn't work out for him. And now he's at Cal with a big opportunity to turn his career around. So let's see what we got here. So that concludes it for my draft. So we got quarterback room of Jackson Dart, Lenore Sellers, Daquan Finn, and Aiden Childs. I'm extremely happy with that quarterback room. We got rushing upside from each and every one of them. So especially in 4 quarterbacks, I love the rushing Konami code quarterbacks no matter what the passing touchdown is, but especially in 4 points, give me all of them. And then at running back, we got our anchor, Darius Taylor, Cameron Scatabo, Marcus Carroll, Caden Fegan, Dallin Hayden, and CJ Donaldson. I love that room. They're all going to see the field consistently and get a good amount of work that we can count on week in and week out. And then CJ Donaldson, the hammer at the goal line, could get us a touchdown each and every week. And then definitely the weakest part of my team, I would say, besides tight end, of course, is the wide receivers. We got Trey Wilson, Kyle Williams, Carnell Tate, Nick Harbor, Barian Brown, Chris Mitchell, and Cam Coleman. Just a lot of question marks here. Trey and Kyle will definitely be the anchors of this room. And then big upside with Nick Harbor, Barian Brown, and Cam Coleman. I could see Chris Mitchell being consistent week in and week out. And then Carnell Tate, extremely high upside, but he could also be knocked down the totem pole as the season goes on. And then the tight end room, the touchdown upside week to week with Terrence Ferguson. Similar with Jalen Conyers and then Randy Pittman, the true sophomore, should see an expanded role down there at UCF with Arkansas transfer KJ Jefferson, who I absolutely love. Would have loved to have him here, but he went way too early for my liking. But that's the squad, the first official entry into the Best Bowl Mania for myself. So I got a couple slow drafts going. So that's it. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm sure we'll be doing this on a weekly basis, if not more, depending on how quickly it fills up. It's a little over 30% right now. Hopefully we'll get another smaller college football tournament before the season. But if not, this is going to be one with quite a few entries. I'm not going to max it out at 150, but I'm going to put in quite a bit of them. So hopefully Derek will be able to join me on the next one. He can't draft being in Ohio, but he can damn sure be here for the conversation and put in the picks together. But appreciate everybody tuning in for this one. Please give me a follow on Twitter at Gump7285, and then the podcast page at gridiron_FS. And then please give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and a rating on Spotify. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube at the Gridiron Fantasy Show. Give us a like. Turn the notifications on. This will be on YouTube with the draft board up for the entirety of the video as well. So starting to get into the YouTube a little bit, so please subscribe over there. And then we're all on Sleeper, playing with our dynasty teams coming up on redraft season. They do have a DFS pick'em platform. Use our code GUMP, GUMP, for a first-time user deposit match up to $100. With that, you'll also get a special 0.5 pick, which was essentially a free square for one of your first slips. So go ahead and use the code and then sign up there as well. And then for all of us sports bettors out there, if you're not on props.cash or Outlier, use code GUMP over there as well to get a 7-day free trial from Outlier or 25% off your first month with props.cash. Again, appreciate everybody that tuned into this one, and we'll see you again on the next one. And thanks for listening.